Yeah, if it's okay with everybody, we'll start now.
Great.
Because we have Professor Daniel Chamovitz with us, the president of Ben-Gurion University. I'm the Minister of Public Diplomacy here at the Embassy of Israel in Washington, D.C. And I'm very happy to host and get to question Professor Chamovitz. The main topic would be the power of academic innovation from local to global impact. But I'm sure like many of the people who joined us and are listening to us on Facebook, are really interested to hear what Ben-Gurion University in the Negev is doing in terms of cyber innovation, student integration, and during COVID and after COVID. So just let me tell you a little bit about Professor Chamovitz. He has been the president of Ben-Gurion University in the Negev since January of 2019. And he came to the university from Tel Aviv University, where he was the dean of the Faculty of Life Sciences for 4 years before that. He's educated both from Columbia University and in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Professor Chamovitz has published works on development and computational biology and botany. His 2012 book, What a Plant Knows, I love that, received worldwide recognition and has been translated to 18 languages. I'm sure you'll be able to tell very soon, but he's originally from the US, from Pennsylvania, and hopefully we'll hear a little bit about that. But, now that he's in the Negev and in the heart of Israel, in some matters, we're very excited about that. In addition, and again, we'll hear about it more, but Ben-Gurion University is celebrating its 50th anniversary, which is quite an achievement, and is a leading institution in many, many fields in Israel, including, and I mentioned it, cybersecurity, and we'll talk about perhaps cyber city, entrepreneurship, innovation, biotech, desert studies. I told the professor this when we spoke yesterday. The Blaustein Institute for Desert Studies is one of my favorite spots in the Negev. One, it's beautiful, and secondly, the things that are done there are mind-blowing. They're also dealing with the using water, reusing water, reclaiming water. Really fascinating things and very relevant, I think, for the future of the planet, not just of Israel. And yeah, I have very good experiences from Ben-Gurion University. Never went there, but really every time I went and I heard Amos Oz and some of the greatest minds in Israel went through the university. So I'm very excited. So thank you so much, Professor Chamovitz. And should we delve right into the questions?
Yeah, I'm just really happy to, I'm supposed to be with you last month physically for our 50th birthday. And wow, what a difference plans make, huh?
Yeah.
But I'm glad to be with you this way instead.
Yeah, it still doesn't excuse you. Well, hopefully one day we're still expecting you here to have a big celebration in person. But thank you so much for giving us your time. And I know you're very busy these days with plenty of other activities. And so we'll get right to it. We can't, we have to start, and you mentioned it, as we are these days, we're in the midst still of COVID-19. The numbers seem to be going down, but the effects, closing universities, the effects on students and in general in society are still, of course, felt, and we're still dealing with it. Can you tell us a little bit about the task force that Ben-Gurion University set up? How did the idea come about, and how are you dealing with this?
Yeah, sure. First, I need to mention, and I think it's very important for us all to realize that even when we say numbers are going down, we cannot be complacent. That, 1 second, I think something else happened there. Okay. We should not be complacent, because in Israel, we got complacent. Numbers were down 2 weeks ago, and now we're back up. So everyone, please wear these. If I wasn't, you can't get a viral infection through the not a computer virus, but this will keep the numbers down. I can't say it more. There's no better way of protecting our children and our grandparents and our parents and ourselves. Please wear these, or else the numbers are just going to go right back up, and I'll never get on an airplane again if the numbers don't go down. So yeah, I'm going to start traveling again. Anyway, so yeah, so March, it was the beginning of March. We had a meeting at Tel Aviv at Ben-Gurion University. We had a small task force of the administrators and senior management. At that time, there were 25 cases in Israel, 25 cases. And one of our epidemiologists said, listen, by the end of the week, there's going to be 100. And that sounded like an absolutely impossible number, 100 cases. Of course, within that case, a week later, we were way past 100. And I was sent actually a skit from our version of Saturday Night Live called Eretz Nehederet. And in this famous skit from Eretz Nehederet, one of the characters has just been diagnosed with cancer, and he's screaming at his doctor saying, why are all these doctors sitting around drinking coffee? Right now, it's serious. It's my time. I expect you all to work until you find a solution for me. Until now, I didn't think doctors were important. Now, get to work. I expect you to work till you find it's personal. It's mine. And all of a sudden, I realized, at the university, we have some pretty good minds. What are we doing just talking about COVID? I sent out an email that day. That was a Wednesday. I said, tomorrow morning, show up in the meeting room next to my office. Anyone who's willing to put their research aside and get together and brainstorm, what can we do to help solve the COVID-19 process? And 50 people showed up into this meeting room. Another 20 people were in Zoom because they were already in isolation. And we had a mini hackathon of professors who were saying, I have this idea, but I need this type of expertise. And someone else said, well, I have this idea, but I need this. And then people started working. And I said to them, listen, I will fund whatever I have. And it's my responsibility to get more funding for you, but just let's get going now. And within 4 days, we had about 15 funded projects going on without any funding coming in. And it was from all over the campus. It's not just biology and vaccines and immunizations, but it was in testing. It was in understanding how to communicate to the Haredi ultra-Orthodox populations, how to communicate to the Bedouin population, how it was helping our well-being, how could we test in sewers all over campus. It was absolutely amazing. It was heartwarming because that's what research in higher education is about. It's about being innovative. It's about having expertise that you can take in any direction at any time. And often I think the public doesn't appreciate the importance of publicly funded research in research universities. Sometimes it gets poo-pooed as, oh, they're studying fruit flies. Yeah, we're studying fruit flies in order to find cures for COVID-19. And really we had results within 1 week. We had a new testing method, which was 8 times more efficient. Within 3 weeks, we had, or 2.5 weeks, you may have heard, we have a breathalyzer for COVID-19. That's a 1-minute test for COVID. We had things coming up. It was just amazing. It was just showing what we can really do if you just tear down the barriers between the silos of different disciplines and all work together. And at the same time, I was heartened that people really got identified with it, appreciated it, and then we succeeded also in raising money for it rather quickly.
If you may, it might not be, but can you tell us just a little bit if it's being used and when? Because we all saw, I'm sure all of us followed in the papers, both the breathalyzer and the test. Do you actually get to now test it practically? I know it has to go through testing before it's approved formally by our Ministry of Health.
Now we are unfortunately at the intersection of technology and innovation, regulation, and legalities. Because the innovation and the technology works. We need it to be approved by the FDA, but we also have to deal with legalities because all of a sudden, it's interesting, but it's amazing how people can try to claim ownership of things that they had nothing to do with. Because obviously there's going to be a financial stake in this. We've had offers from all over the world for stakes in this company because if you imagine it, one test in 1 minute, you could get everyone on an airplane and know that they are COVID-free. So if we get through the regulation and the legalities, this could be in market by September, October.
in the US we saw it, but is it in Israel as well that some things are now fast tracked or are getting federal assistance to move it along? Is it the same in Israel? Is there
The
a
exact
change?
same. It's the exact same. When it'll be approved in Israel, it'll be approved in the United States. But we basically need FDA approval for it in order to get it going.
Yeah.
And the testing one is, that we're doing already in the university, even just for our own needs. We're trying to figure out as a university for the next academic year, how can we have, it's critical for me as president, and it's critical for us that we have an open university next year. We do not want to take the Cambridge model or many of the American models and have the university closed. We think it is essential for students to be on campus, to be exposed to academic and social interactions. A college degree is much more than just a grouping of classes. It's what you get at coffee breaks. It's what you get from interacting with your professors. It's what you get from interacting with your friends. And Ben-Gurion University, more than any other Israeli university, it comes the closest to having an American campus feel. We are Israel's only destination university, where students come to live on campus. They come to live in the apartments around campus. For the social life in Beer-Sheva, for the camp, our student union actually has 160 clubs. We're in Israel.
No.
So it's crucial for us to have an open campus that will be a meshing of both online learning and in-person learning. And our testing will be one of the ways of assuring that we're keeping each other safe.
Would you mind, because we do have, as I said before, representatives from different universities and local governments here, can you give us a little more, if you can, an outline how like a student who wants to come back in the fall to campus, how do you envision, how big would be the classes? What will be the percentages perhaps of online versus on campus? How are you going to be able to do it within, of course, the same?
Sure. If I knew what the answers were, everything would be easy. And unfortunately, we're also trying to predict the future, what the Ministry of Health will be allowing. But what we're, barring a major outbreak, we could always go back to 100% online. I mean, we went to 100% online within 3 days, from 5 online courses to 2,000 online courses. A classic Israeli story, sort of like the Battle of the Latrun. At 8 in the morning, it feels like everyone's going to lose the battle, and by 5 in the afternoon, oh, it's a piece of cake. But what we're envisioning and what we're working towards is a mixed curriculum where any class over, let's say, 50 people will be given only online.
Okay.
But then we will have many more study groups, let's say in calculus, 10, 15 people on campus. And so we're looking probably about a 60-40, 70-30 mix of online and on campus. And the challenge here is maybe we need to be staggering our academic day. Students would like their classes to be between 9:30, 10 in the morning, and 4 or 5 in the afternoon. We're going to have to go from 8 in the morning till maybe 10 at night. Wow. So that we can spread out the classrooms. So the whole way is just to not have major congregations of students, close the student union, but it's Beer-Sheva, it's not so cold outside. We could have seats around on all the open areas and try to find some way of doing that. And testing. And the third thing is what we've learned from our experience is that this online studying is better for a third of our students. From our research that we've done, a third of our students love it, a third hate it, and a third would like some type of mix between it. But what you learn from this is that students have different modalities for learning. And we can't have a one-size-fits-all response. There are students like me when I was an undergrad, before there was the technology of even recording the classes, in a 250 student class of organic chemistry at Columbia University in that famous big lecture hall that was in Ghostbusters and in many other things. I would be the one sitting in the back row with his feet up holding the newspaper because I was just not meant for large lectures. On the other hand, there's people who sit in the front row and have to write down everything.
That was me.
But that's how you have to learn. And so what we want to do now is equip our lecture halls technologically so that every class can allow for a student to be present, or to allow for that same lecture to be streamed real time online to someone who's having trouble getting out of bed. It's just like banks now allow people either to do it with a personal teller on phone, and everyone has their modality that works. If we enable multiple modalities, we'll get a higher success rate from our students.
Wow.
One of the interesting things that we found is, again, completely unexpected, is that students, particularly, at Ben-Gurion University and in the South, we have Israel's largest Bedouin population, which are very socioeconomically disadvantaged. These girls come from the worst school systems. I'm talking about girls specifically for a second. So the worst school systems in Israel come to Ben-Gurion University, and they're quite intimidated. And what one of my colleagues said, teaches mechanical engineering. He said by Zoom, these Bedouin girls were asking questions, whereas in the class, they never opened their mouths. They were intimidated. So, if we learn how to take what worked well for us, but still allow for campus life, we'll be a better university.
That is, it's amazing that you're already finding positive aspects or ways to better yourself within this, within COVID-19. So may I ask also, we started talking a little bit about, the cyber and high tech and innovation that you're doing, because there's the cyber city, if you can say a few words about that. And can you tell us, COVID and also not COVID, how the university is integrated within this cyber city, how it integrates the city of Beer-Sheva? And you already started speaking about the different communities, perhaps the Bedouin women and young women who study with you.
That's a lot. Let me try to work my way around that. So it's been known now for a while that somehow or another, and I would like to say we planned it, but in academia, a lot of things are ground up. And we were just incredibly lucky to have some incredible computer scientists with expertise in cybersecurity who really developed the infrastructure that allowed us to become a world leader in cybersecurity. And this brought multinationals to Beer-Sheva, the largest of which is Deutsche Telekom, the largest telecom company in Germany, which invested millions of euros in research in Ben-Gurion University to found the Deutsche Telekom BGU cyber labs. They could have gone anywhere in the world. They came to Beer-Sheva. Now, as someone who has only been living in Beer-Sheva for now a year and a half, you don't necessarily think, oh, Beer-Sheva and cyber, they don't go hand in hand in a lot of people's imaginations. But because of this success, then the Prime Minister's office chose to put the National Cybersecurity Directorate in the same high-tech industrial park adjacent to Ben-Gurion University. And so it's a bottom-up initiative which just has overflown but this ties into our role of Ben-Gurion University as a nation-building university. We were put in the Negev 50 years ago to develop the industry, at that time the low-tech industry, mainly the chemical and the chemical industry of the Negev. Because there was, at that time, to get from Jerusalem to Beer-Sheva was a 3.5-hour drive. There were actually flights from Atarot Airport in Jerusalem to Beer-Sheva to bring some of the first lecturers. It's crazy.
Wow.
Because we are the only university in Israel that is also within the poorest neighborhoods of that city. So everything we do has a direct effect on Beer-Sheva and thus the Negev. And so about 16 years ago, maybe it was the president at the time, Avishai Braverman, together with Yaakov Turner, who was the mayor of Beer-Sheva, had a dream to build a high-tech park in Beer-Sheva adjacent to the university. And the reason we did this is because while Ben-Gurion University graduates a third of Israel's engineers, and no one really, 1/3 of Israel's engineers, they had no jobs. They all went to work in the north, in the center of Israel or in the north of Israel. And so it wasn't helping the local economy. So the university had to invest, and it's actually a crazy idea that the university invested in this, in building its own high-tech park. And we are 1/3 of the owners in the high-tech park adjacent to the university. It's connected to the university by a bridge. It opened 6 years ago, and now there are 70 multinational companies there with over 3,500 employees, 70% of whom are BGU graduates. You know, and these are people that without, you know, so we have to do more than just the best academics. We have to invest in building the ecosystem. And now this ecosystem where we have, I'm going to go here, where we have this now, this cyber advanced technologies park is the kingpin of the new dream. And the new dream is that 5 months ago, we inaugurated Israel's innovation district. Beer-Sheva was chosen by the Prime Minister's office to house Israel's first innovation district. Sort of, you can picture what's in St. Louis around Washington University, or around Drexel and Penn in Philadelphia, or between MIT and Harvard in Boston. It's going to be a new district at the intersection of Ben-Gurion University, Soroka Hospital, the Advanced Technologies Park, and the poor neighborhoods surrounding, where we're going to build 2 new industrial parks or academic parks along that same road. One will be dedicated to digital health, combining the expertise that we have in cyber and in big data, together with the expertise at Soroka Hospital and the Kupat Cholim. And then in the middle, we're going to have a desert tech industrial park, taking advantage of everything that we've built, all the knowledge we've gained at Ben-Gurion University through the Blaustein campus in water, in energy, desert agriculture, together with the companies, the chemical companies, the ag chemical companies around Beer-Sheva. And then the cyber tech, the desert tech, and the med tech together will then build an ecosystem where there's restaurants and shops and lots of innovation and small companies coming up, which will then trickle down throughout the entire neighborhood of Beer-Sheva, of these neighborhoods in Beer-Sheva. And you know, the people can't necessarily picture this as what, Beer-Sheva Innovation District? Yeah, this is going to happen. It's going to take 10 years to build the whole thing. But no one believed 20 years ago that we would have this cybersecurity high-tech park. And the truth of the matter is, 50 years ago when they founded the university, no one could have pictured a university with 20,000 students doing these things, housing the Cybersecurity Center, housing Israel's National Autism Research Center. You know, it's truly remarkable.
It is. And if I may ask about the cyber, do you see, you said how the university professors came together and reshuffled themselves around COVID in the cyber park and the interactions of the university and the researchers with the cyber park? Do you see a field within cyber that actually is growing now due to COVID and the changes in our world, due to the fact that we do everything online? Do you see a field or? Well,
that's really something that had started just before then. They had started a major project that had, and it was published, that exposed a weakness in the medical system, that anyone could really hack into, let's say, an X-ray machine or into a CT scan. And you say, okay, who cares? But let's say you take the President of the United States, and he's now gone and had an X-ray, and someone's hacked in and can transplant digitally COVID into his lungs or cancer into somebody. And so then it looks like, yeah, exactly. And the doctors couldn't tell which were the doctored scans, which were the real ones. And so our data is out there that if anyone wanted to be malicious, they could make anyone think that they need to go through chemotherapy or they need to, for example. So, so cyber is not only keeping our computers safe, it's keeping our hospitals safe. It's keeping our own health safe. It's keeping, if you wanted to manipulate the market, just think who would you have to get sick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, and so I'm assuming now you're dealing with finding ways of even more. On the one hand, I know Israel, and we always say this, that one of the good things or treating COVID in Israel was that we were able to share the data,
Right.
between the national health insurance and the hospitals, but now you're bringing something that,
so for example, you want to shut down the university. You could tell, if you could hack the system and say, okay, the president is sick with COVID. How many people have I been in? I've been in contact with every dean and every vice president in the past week. We would all now be,
in isolation, and
exactly.
That is something to think about. And thinking about that, we got a question which I think sort of fits in with this, so I will ask it from one of our participants. In this time now, doing everything online and rethinking your interactions, how do you interact with other international universities, or but other universities on the international arena? Or are you looking for partnerships? Or what are you thinking of doing with other academic and research institutions?
Well, this is a very critical question in the age of COVID, in the age of impossible travel. What is collaboration between universities? But it's also an opportunity. And I'll give you a very simple example. The first week of July, I'm teaching a class. I still do that just because I really love teaching, at Peking University. I've been teaching the same class for the past 5 years on plant biology, on what a plant knows. But this year I'm giving the class by Zoom, because I'm not, but we're opening the class also to Ben-Gurion University students. And so we're going to have Israeli students and Chinese students taking the same class together. And this is a type of interaction that hasn't been really taken advantage of in the past. Student exchanges was also always flying students from one place to another. We don't need to do that anymore. Maybe we can actually share teaching and have work groups that work together remotely as we've gotten better at this, adapting to it.
So are you planning, or are you thinking of these options?
No, yes. So my vice president for global engagement is now looking for when we have lots of global partners. For example, we have an excellent partnership, for example, with Brown, where we're looking to do, probably going to have a course in global health and in innovation together online.
That is, a semester course, like a full course.
Whole semester course, exactly. The problem is, as a president, what does a president do who can't fly?
I'm sure a lot, and I know about Ben-Gurion, but universities in general, and you see it a lot in the States too, they do rely on the goodwill and the donations and the contacts with alumni. And unless you can tell us differently, or maybe you solved this issue too, how do you keep in touch with the alumni in a way, and are you able, here you said also for the research, to get the funding you need when you can't go out and do events or connect with them or bring them?
There's two problems here. One, we're all of us are going through financial instability or financial crises of different types. So donations are down worldwide for everything. Though I am a believer that if our message is clear of what we need the funds for, they will come. But there's no doubt that it's easier to make this contact, to make the case eye to eye in a room than through Zoom. Maybe I need to start taking acting lessons and learn how to be empathic by over the computer. But we're starting right now a $5 million campaign that's aimed at solving a clear problem. Is that we are really worried for the next academic year that students will not be able to start it. And the reason being that all of our students, or most of our students, are older. Most of them, a large proportion of them, are after the Army. Many of them have been around the world. They're not dependent on their parents anymore. They all work as waiters, waitress, part-time jobs that have disappeared. They're the first ones who have been laid off. And even if they wanted to ask their parents for help, a lot of the parents are, we have 20% unemployment right now. And we are really worried that there will be, well, we've had an increase in registration to the university. We're worried that they won't show up because they won't be able to afford the university financially. And so this campaign that we're launching is aimed to raise scholarship money to ensure that any student who wants to attend Ben-Gurion University next year can attend regardless of their financial situation. It's sort of like need-blind admission. When I got to Columbia University, I don't know if universities still have that, but in the early 1980s, you were accepted to Columbia University without having any knowledge of whether you could pay tuition or not. And once you were accepted, the university guaranteed that you would get the financial aid package to allow you to attend. That's what we're trying to do at Ben-Gurion University next year. And I think that resonates because, higher education is the great equalizer. And we can't allow a generation to go, even 1 year to go by where students don't get that opportunity.
That is beautiful. And if I can plug, you didn't plug it, so let me plug for you. You're totally right. But still, in comparison, and Ben-Gurion, is a leading university, the tuition in Israel is a fraction for what it is in institutions or, similar institutions in the US. So hopefully some students who are listening to you might actually think of applying.
So that's the other thing. So the first part was in the threat. In the opportunity, we do think that, and we are developing now more degrees in English because we believe, we give a world-class education. Our graduates are all over. The guy who developed the vaccine in Boston, I just drew a blank on the name of the company, it'll come to me in a second.
Here it's not, yeah.
Yeah, he's a graduate of Ben-Gurion University.
Wow.
In fact, we're very proud. So we do see an opportunity here that, if you're going to spend, $40,000 a year for an education or $10,000 a year for an education, I'd go for, it's the same degree. And you get to have a good time in Beer-Sheva.
Yeah, and it is. And as you said, it's the desert, but the weather is nice and almost
all year round.
Right,
the name of the company, I see someone wrote it, the name of the company is Moderna. Exactly.
Okay, so we'll look that up as well later. And talking again about the desert and things you mentioned and COVID and after COVID, food security and water security is an issue everywhere. I heard today, for example, that there's 300,000 or in India, children are at risk due to, lack of food. In the bigger picture, more are hungry there, but are an immediate risk in the next few months due to Corona. But can you talk a little bit both about the innovation and the desert studies that you do to try and solve this or at least tackle this problem?
Sure. So for the past 50 years, we've been studying problems that we thought were Negev specific. Solar energy, water shortages, water desalination. By the way, you may not know this, but reverse osmosis was invented at Ben-Gurion University in the and we just never patented it because we thought it was so good for mankind. That would have paid for anything we needed. But anyway.
Wow. There are reverse osmosis plants, Israeli plants all over the world, including Gulf countries. So it's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, this was 60 years ago, even in the research labs that predated the university. But, so, we've been doing with desalination, water, desert agriculture, how to deal in an ever hotter environment. We sort of related to this as Ben-Gurion specific, as Negev specific, maybe Israel specific. But these challenges are now challenges of the world. If you've traveled to Europe in the summers recently, people they don't know how to deal with the heat. We actually just, I'm not sure if I can announce this yet, but I'll announce it. We just got a nice donation from Electra, one of Israel's largest air conditioning company, that is partnering with us to develop innovation in climate control, because not for the Israeli market, but for the European market. So everything that we've been doing over the past 50 years is relevant for the world, and people are looking to us for leadership in this. And that's why in the next year or two, we're probably going to be reorganizing and developing a school of sustainability and climate change, which will really juxtapose everything we've already done in the desert together with social sciences, public health, and engineering in order to take this multidisciplinary approach in order to help the world with its next biggest challenge, which is reacting to climate change.
That is, yeah, COVID and non-COVID. This is really, yeah, it's innovative. And as you said, you didn't even know you were being, world, on the cusp of what the world will need. But I'm glad you're there at the forefront and leading. And I want to go back to another topic that you are leading in, and you mentioned already. You mentioned the Bedouin community in the Negev, in the Israeli desert. 70% of our country is desert, and you're right in the middle, right? Beer-Sheva is the capital of the desert and the south of Israel. You mentioned the fact that these young women are now asking questions on Zoom because they feel more comfortable. So I want to ask you two questions about this. And you mentioned also, some students in need or maybe don't have the same advantages in life that others. What about, does everybody these days, even out in the desert, have personal computers? Do they have internet connection? What are you doing, one, on regular life perhaps, and these days, in order to get these students involved in the university?
That's a great question. This was one of our immediate challenges to this 3-day move from classroom learning to online learning. So first of all, I don't know anyone in Israel who doesn't have one of these.
At least one.
And this is stronger than any computer that we had 10 years ago. So all of our classes can easily be given on the cell phone. But we also opened, so we were here, now here we had a problem. We were not allowed to have students on campus by health ministry regulation. We wanted to open maybe some rooms for people who felt that they couldn't, study. Some of them are from our communities that aren't even recognized, where they don't have standard electricity. So what we did is we opened up the computer rooms in the dormitories for anyone to use who wanted to get to. The dormitories are off of campus, and so they weren't under the same regulation as on campus. You got to be a little Israeli. Exactly. And also we had a group of faculty members, actually it's called the Young Academia, who got together and arranged for donations of computers to anyone who needed a computer from within the university. If anyone had a computer they didn't need anymore and just went around, the 250,000 people in Beer-Sheva. Also, Beer-Sheva is not the richest city in the world. And 250,000 Bedouins surrounding Beer-Sheva. And then the last thing we did is the student union and the dean of students, we worked hand in hand with them, handed out net sticks, which were internet sticks that you plug into a computer if you don't have internet access, for free to anyone to use who needed it. So we had to assure that anyone who needed internet access had it.
That is, and a question.
And the importance of this, it's probably clear, but I think the biggest sin a society can make is to lose potential excellence. And we don't know which 19-year-old or 15-year-old is the next person to make a breathalyzer. Unfortunately, universities, or maybe societies in general, judge excellence based on SAT scores, or psychometric scores. Oh, you have a 1600, you're accepted to Harvard because you're excellent. But we know that these scores are only one way of judging somebody. And the chances are that if you came from Herzliya Pituach or from Tel Aviv, your scores are going to be higher than if you came from Hoa or Shchuna Dalet in Beer-Sheva. So we as a university have a mission not to lose potential excellence. And again, I have to come back to my own personal story. The only reason I was accepted to Columbia, I come from a small town in Western Pennsylvania, closer to West Virginia than to Pittsburgh. My SAT scores were the highest in my high school, or almost the highest in my high school. And I got accepted to Columbia. And on the first day, the dean of Columbia is talking to the students. And I realized that my SATs were in the bottom 10%. That I was accepted on the basis of geographic diversity. That if I'd had those same SAT scores in Riverdale, I would never have been accepted. But Columbia gave me the chance, and that's what got me to be president today, more or less. So if we're only going to be, if we don't realize that we have to enable accessibility to higher education to these Bedouin students, we're not doing that because we're such great people. We're doing it because there's excellence here that we could be missing that can transform society.
That is very moving and I think amazing. And I think you answered the question now that we got from the audience or participants, but I'll ask it anyway in case you have another thought. They said it's amazing what Ben-Gurion University is doing about the cyber and others, and they're asking if you have a plan to become the leading research university in Israel.
Well,
it sounds like you answered it from my perspective, but maybe you have other.
That's my goal. We have, look, there's all of the universities in Israel do excellent research. I came from I don't want to say one is better than the other, but we're at least as good as all of the other ones.
We're all, we're very democratic in Israel and diplomatic, apparently. I
still have my laboratory at Tel Aviv University. I got to be very careful here.
Yeah.
No, but the truth is, we do have excellent higher education in Israel with excellent research. And our hope is, higher education, I also see this in North America. Often we have a target on us. Oh, you guys are wastes of money. Why do you need to study this? Why'd you be more practical? And I think what we've seen in COVID is that everyone all over the world looked to academia for the answers. Epidemiology has never been more sexy. I'm expecting a huge increase in registration for epidemiology.
And
if you look at history, societies which invest in basic research are the societies which become the leading economies. There's no way around that.
That's a good fact to know and to keep in mind. And we're almost out of time, Professor, but may I ask you, and if you have there are quite a few people here and we're going to connect you. You made yourself busy, I think, for the next couple of months here. So I'm very, very glad about that. And Dalit Purser, who is in charge of our academic affairs, and myself will do all we can to connect you and make sure you stay busy. But do you have, two things, always two things. One, tell us a little bit about the other Zoom and other plans we did, and final words about you and the university.
At midnight tonight, our time, I think it's midnight or 1 a.m, I just drew a blank on it. I'm having a webinar together with Dr. Ruth Westheimer on heavenly sex. Dr. Ruth Westheimer was supposed to have been getting an honorary doctorate from Ben-Gurion University last month. We're still looking for a time to get her to Israel. It's going to be a webinar hosted by the American Associates of Ben-Gurion University. She has she's inaugurated a scholarship in psychology in her honor, and she's promised that, you have to log on to hear this, that anyone who donates to her scholarship endowment is guaranteed excellence, as she says it, great sex for the rest of your life.
That's good. So, we'll definitely tune in. And can I suggest perhaps that the honorary doctorate could be given here in our hall at the embassy, and we'll be happy to have both you and her here with your guests to celebrate in person when we can.
And I should say the other person that we were supposed to be getting an honorary doctorate with, and you can understand the sensitivity here, is and who has agreed, is Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh, the two Ruths. One is
so we're going to have to figure out a way of doing this safely.
So yeah, again, in DC, it's a solution, and I'm saying it now, and I'm being recorded anytime, and we'll make ourselves and help out. But really, thank you again. But can you give us a final 2 sentences, Ben-Gurion today and the future, 50 years and the next 50 years?
Yeah, there is, as I said at the beginning, there is no university more important for the future of Israel than Ben-Gurion University. And the math is simple. If you buy in to Ben-Gurion's vision that the future of Israel is in the Negev, and it is, there is nowhere left to build houses. My kids won't be able to afford to live anywhere else rather than in the south unless they manage to do a great exit somehow or another. You know, prices in Israel are just crazy. The future of Israel is in the Negev. The future of the Negev is dependent on Beer-Sheva becoming a vibrant metropolis. But the ability of Beer-Sheva to become a vibrant metropolis is dependent on Ben-Gurion, the thriving of Ben-Gurion University. And so if you believe that A equals to B equals to C, then the future of Israel is dependent on Ben-Gurion University.
We're looking forward to hearing from you again, and we'll follow up on these. And again, really amazing work and research that your university is doing. And we thank you so much for your time, Professor Chamovitz, for helping us, for talking to us.
Great, thank you, my pleasure.
And we'll continue to be in touch here. And everybody's saying thank you. So really, it was fabulous hearing from you. And I'm so glad we all got to learn something.
Great, bye-bye.
Bye, shalom.
Shalom.